I'd like to talk about domestic violence. It seems to me that widespread violence against women is still one of our most crucial and pressing issues. Your reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. It is.
Does it plague all societies?
It plagues all societies. It's endemic in every society. See, one of the problems is that we do not really have very systematic empirical data to say 1 in 2 women faces domestic violence. But the existing data that we do have shows that between 25% to 50% of women worldwide have faced domestic violence at some point in their life. Mm-hmm. So that means almost 1 in every other woman does face domestic violence across cultures, across income strata, across educational levels. Mm-hmm. So it's universal. Mm-hmm.
Do most countries have laws prohibiting domestic violence?
Not many have laws prohibiting domestic violence. One thing that has happened is that in Latin America and the United States, there was an Inter-American Convention on violence against women. So as a result of signing that convention, quite a few of the Latin American countries have begun to put on legislation provisions against domestic violence. I was just going through, there was a review of 17 countries, basically Latin American countries. In South America and North America do have some provision.
Will the laws be enforced, do you believe?
There's quite a bit of, what is that phrase? That
a slip between cup and lip.
It's huge.
But domestic violence laws, specific laws addressing domestic violence, can be very helpful in terms of bringing the issue to the attention of law enforcement. But really, most countries in the world, if not all countries, have assault laws which prohibit assault, and domestic violence is clearly a form of assault. So I think the real challenge for us is how to get law enforcement to work for women. And if I could just go back to the point you made at the very beginning, I think it's not just about women in corporate boards. We need women everywhere. We need women in the police force. We need women in the judiciary, so that when women come in, there will be some more understanding of what they might be going through, some more willingness to believe something they say. And that right now, I think women feel like everything's stacked against them when they go to the police. Mm-hmm. And the police really are siding with the person who abused them. That's something you hear commonly all over, including in this country. And so laws are helpful, but they're just the first step. We need a whole reorientation of law enforcement in order to address this problem effectively.
Although there are some of my colleagues who would argue that practice in the domestic violence area, that the cards are really now stacked against men here in the United States.
That's not necessarily so. I mean, I think it's true, as Jessica said, it's important to take a step back, because fundamentally there is an impression that there is a clear demarcation between private and public. Mm-hmm. And domestic violence, conjugal, familial, is perceived as being private. And one of the important angles to look at is the laws about assault and applying them. But one of the drawbacks of that is that domestic violence is not necessarily exclusively corporal violence. You know, there is psychological battering, there is omission of sex, money, there is threat, you know, there is control. I mean, fundamentally, it's again, the whole subjugation and control. And it's a re-education and an understanding of how violence is perceived by the person who is experiencing it. You know, a lot of the violence doesn't necessarily start with corporal violence. It's very often verbal assault.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.